What's up, guys? I'm Lisa, Borderlands Bakery, and we have here Dave. Say hi, Dave.
Hello, how are you?
So Dave is an incredible cookie decorator and macaron baker, and he actually decorates macarons as well. And we're just here today to kind of get to know each other a little more. We actually met during CookieCon IRL last week, so I was like, we gotta just ride that momentum and keep this thing going, you know? Dave's going to be talking about his Royal Icing calculator with us. He created this amazing tool for the cookie community. But first, who is Dave? Uh, so Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us like where you live, a little bit about your upbringing and how you kind of stumbled into this cookies thing.
My name is Dave, and
Hi, Dave.
Hi, and I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I was born and raised in Chicago in a northern suburb with my mom and my three older sisters. And yeah, so I grew up and spent my entire life here. I went down to University of Illinois for college, and
What'd you study?
I studied finance with a minor in Spanish.
Finance, bro, with a minor in Spanish.
Yeah,
Okay,
totally. Yep.
that's really cool. Okay.
Yeah, so I majored in finance, business school, and I finished up there, and I moved back up to Chicago, and I started my career. I started my career working for actually the current company that I'm with right now. So I've been there for a whopping 17 years.
17
Can you believe
years.
that? So yeah, I mean, I moved around in the departments, but I'm settling into a finance role right now.
Okay. Are you happy with your career, or like are you trying to do something else?
I'm open to possibilities for sure.
Yeah.
But I've been there for 17 years, so like I've grown very accustomed to the culture, to the company, and to all of that, everything that it offers from a benefits perspective, flexibility.
It's hard to give up the stable, predictable income, the benefits like the 401,
Absolutely.
Healthcare, right? And that's huge.
Yeah, it's a major thing, and I think the older I'm getting, from a medical standpoint, especially, like I want to make sure that I'm taken care of on that front. I don't have any issues if I, were to run into any that I would be able to financially take care of myself.
For real. And like, do you have a family? Do you live by yourself? Like, what's that situation like?
No, I am single. I live by myself in this.
Wait, are you single and looking, or are you single and just chilling?
I'm single and not necessarily looking, but if something were to come up, then I'm not one to turn it away.
All right, YouTube, you heard that
here. I've just been very dedicated and focused on my cookies currently, and so I think that it has a huge deal with
your availability, right?
Yeah, right.
So anybody who does cookies knows that they're a time suck, but Dave is actually pretty new to cooking. You just started this last couple of years. What were you doing in like your free time and stuff while you were growing your finance career?
In my 20s, I was a dancer. And so aside from my finance role, my corporate America role, I was a dancer in my 20s. And I was an artistic director for a pretty large dance company in Chicago.
And what genre of dance was this?
It's a hip hop dance group. And so it started at U of I. The founder had very big dreams of expanding this dance group into like this huge corporation, and just this whole network of dancers. Well, one community, bring them all together, even though we're all far apart, we all have one thing in common: dancing and this dance group. And so I started dancing at U of I. And then after I graduated, we decided to start the Chicago branch. And so me and my co-director, we were responsible for building this team in Chicago. And so that's what I did throughout my 20s.
When did you decide, or like what happened? You kind of just like naturally tapered off, or?
Yeah, it was, it's one of those things where, the dance community, 21 years old is already reaching a point where you're at the end of your career. You know what I
Oh
mean?
gosh.
Isn't that sad to think about?
Yeah, don't say that out loud.
Yeah. And so I did it until, through my late 20s. And it just gotten to a point where it was like, okay, I need to move on to the next stage. It was just,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Do you still get with those guys, and you still have friends, and then do you still dance?
I don't dance.
Okay.
I still, it's still in my head, it will never like leave your system. So like, even from like when I hear songs, I'm
Get
always
with it.
I'm always like choreographing my head, even though
Dude,
physically
that's
I
cool.
probably would not be able to execute it. You know what I mean? It'll just
Yeah.
always be ingrained in your head.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But some of my best friends I met through dancing. So,
Yeah.
and we're still best friends.
Good.
So.
Right on. So as you moved kind of through your late 20s into your 30s, you were just career focused mostly, for the most part. Did you have any adventures in between there?
No, I just did I traveled. That was
Where'd you
like
go?
I would anywhere. I would, I studied, so my Spanish minor started in Spain.
Oh my God,
Studied in
that's
Spain.
badass. Okay.
Yeah, I lived in Sevilla for a half a year.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah.
Okay.
And so when I was out there, I traveled a ton. And then just throughout my 20s and 30s, I just went anywhere from Rio. I went to the Philippines. I went to Shanghai. Shanghai was
You
the
went to
most,
Shanghai? I'm
yeah.
Shanghainese.
Really? Yeah, that was
Yeah.
right before COVID hit. I went out there to see my ex, my now ex.
Okay.
He lives out there, and I
In
went there.
Shanghai?
He moved. I met him here, but
Okay.
he moved out there to teach English. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
crazy, right? And
So
so,
that's a temporary thing for him.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if he's ever going to return to Chicago, but
Right.
yeah, it's a temporary thing for him.
Yeah. It wasn't like I'm moving to Shanghai, period, start a new life. I'm moving there to teach English, and then I don't know what's next.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Wow, you
Um,
went to Shanghai. How'd you enjoy Shanghai?
I actually really loved it. I had, you know, so he lived in an outside kind of a suburb, I
Yeah, okay.
guess.
Yeah.
Hangzhou, he
Okay.
lived out there. And so I kind of got a taste of both like big city and
The burbs.
yeah. And so Shanghai it's like a New York. It was
It
amazing.
is.
I loved it. It felt like I was in a big city in the States. That's
Yeah,
how.
and it's technologically like pretty advanced, right? Like
Yes.
everything's on your phone,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was amazing. I had a great time. I was out there for Christmas and New Year's,
Oh my gosh, look at you.
and
Okay.
it was packed, first of all, but just like, the energy
Oh man,
was
I'm kind of
amazing.
jealous right now.
Yeah,
I haven't been back in so long.
really.
Yeah.
When was the last time? I mean, have you been there? No.
Oh my gosh. The last time I went, 2011, 10 years ago.
Oh,
I'm sure it's like, again, like a whole
yeah.
new place.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to make your way back over there
Gosh, right? Like
at some
visit my
point.
roots.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's your heritage?
I am Filipino, both my mom and my dad.
And you were born here, and then what about your parents?
Yep. So I'm first generation American, and both of my parents are from the Philippines,
Yeah.
in close to Manila, the capital, just like right outside of there.
Growing up, did you experience any challenges that are like that really stick with you, or it was just overall okay?
I would say, so the area that I grew up in, it the city is Waukegan, which Waukegan is close to a naval base, and that's why we lived out there, because my dad was served in the military in the Navy, and so he got stationed to the Great Lakes
Mhm.
military base. And I would say that city, fortunately for me, was very diverse. And so
Mhm.
I was around um, tons of minorities, just a mixture of everybody. And so it was a melting pot almost.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I didn't experience any hardships from that perspective.
Mhm.
Um, and I can't say that anything else like I can't say that I experienced anything drastic or
Right.
anything that like
That's great.
traumatized me today.
Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
Do you, and today, like your relationship with your family and all that, you guys are super close. I remember you said you and your sisters are like
Yeah.
tight.
Yeah, like literally we all live, within an hour of each other. One of my sisters, she lives maybe less than 10 minutes away.
Mhm.
Um, and my mom is retired, still in the same house that we grew up in. So
Dang. Okay.
she lives there, she's just, stuck in her ways and, doesn't like to.
And she made it work with all these kids in the house, raising all you kids.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
impressive.
absolutely. She's still out there mowing her lawn.
Active.
Yeah, she's, 72 years old and she's still like, she has retirement money that she could pay people to like shovel her driveway, like the
Yeah.
kids in the neighborhood to shovel her
That's
driveway.
right. There's snow. You guys get
Yeah.
snow. It's something us Californians very rarely have to deal with.
Oh, yeah. I could do without the snow. Um,
Okay.
West
You
Coast
gotta do
sounds
what you
very
gotta
nice.
do. You live places for the people and for the stuff. And it's really hard to up and move somewhere else just for the sake of weather, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So as you get into, this cookie decorating, you've made these shifts in your life where you go from, just growing up, school, dance, and then you find this new creative hobby, which is cooking. Um, how did you find cookies first? Let's talk about
Mhm.
that.
So preface the to preface the cookies, I in my 30s, I started to get into baking, like just not cookie decorating, just like
Okay.
random baking. And I want
Like
to say this,
why? Were you just like bored and you're like, I'm gonna do this?
that's exactly what it was.
Okay.
I found this like, and I specifically remember I found this chocolate chip cookie recipe. It was like a brown butter, Nutella stuffed,
You were just like
triple.
browsing the internet or were you like
Yeah,
seeking it out?
I think I like it's a dessert blogger on Instagram. So I must have been going through Instagram and I probably found it somehow.
Okay.
And I hadn't baked in forever, maybe like here and there,
Yeah.
and I made them and they were successful. I was like, oh my gosh, are
Delicious.
you serious? Yeah. And so I started like my baking adventures, like following dessert, like just these general dessert bloggers. And I was trying like new recipes, brownies, tarts.
Do
Um,
you do you actually eat them? Do you enjoy eating them? Let me ask that.
so I do, but like the main intent of baking is I would bake and bring them to my coworkers. Like
Okay.
literally bake them, taste them to make sure that they are presentable, and then take them to work, put them in the pantry. I wouldn't even tell these
Yeah,
people.
you just leave it in the break
Yeah.
room or something, right? Yeah.
And then I would hear, I'd hear people like walking around with them.
You're
Like,
like
yeah.
listening to everybody's.
I know I was such a creeper. I was creating all this buzz, like this mystery baker, on my floor. But I love doing it. So I would just bake things and like at least once or twice a week, I would like find
Wow.
new foods to bake and I would bring them in. Um,
People caught on though, right? At work, people started
yeah.
realizing who it was. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Because, the jig was up.
That it was up. So this
Yeah.
is this is super interesting because I found baking when I was in college and I was stress baking and I just needed something to do. So I had a jewelry business when I was in college and that actually paid for a lot of like all like my expenses and stuff. But I think when you're doing school and you're doing your own business, you're like, but I need something else where I can just zone out and have fun.
Hmm.
So I started baking.
Yeah.
And I am like a zero generation immigrant. I am an immigrant. I came here when I was 6. We didn't have ovens like in China.
Right.
And growing up, the oven was used as storage in my house.
Okay, yeah.
We like never turn it on. Like this is
Yeah.
so Asian and immigrant-ish, but like we never turn it on. And I didn't even know how to use one until I got into an apartment in
Oh my
college.
gosh.
And then I started baking and baking, and then like found cookie decorating, macaron making. I was so obsessed with macarons and like cheesecake, cookies, like muffin, all of it. And then I started bringing them into work when I got my first job. And I realized that baked goods, one, they're a great icebreaker, but two, they're also good for bribery.
Yeah, that's very true.
If you need like a little favor, I
Yeah,
feel like it's a great way to just build some rapport with somebody.
I agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Anytime someone's like, yeah, I bring baked goods into work, and I'm like, this person probably learned to make good relationships and
Yeah,
get things they want.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's a good sign that when you bring in baked goods, people are generally nicer to you.
they are. No
So,
complaints. Anything
no,
to make life easier and get the
yeah,
things you need done.
for sure.
Cool. All right, so keep telling me. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so I was just baking random things like honestly, like my mid 30s into
Whatever you feel like making, right?
whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was like I was trying to find new things. I was never recipe developing though. I will say
Huh.
that. Like I was never like creating things. It was just I wanted to find recipes that I thought would
Okay,
be good.
that's great.
Yeah,
Following directions is hard for people.
I know.
Like
And
seriously.
yeah, people, it's wild to me that like, there's, the cooking side where it's like all about taste and adding here and there, and then baking, which is a very exact science.
Yes.
And I don't know how to cook for the life of me. So like
Really?
that, no, I'm like a total like,
How do you feed yourself? What do you make
I
for?
I don't even want to say it on camera.
Oh
It's so
no.
embarrassing.
I need to know. We can cut it out. I'm
No,
serious. We can cut it out.
I mean, I just rely on the grocery, like things that are already
That's
like
fine. There's no shame in that at
and
all.
and it's not that I have like no idea what I'm doing in the kitchen when I'm cooking. It's that my tiny apartment and my tiny kitchen, I only want to allocate towards baking, because if I get involved with cooking, then it's just going to add so much more into the mix that I have to already keep clean and tidy,
Yeah.
that
It's
it
too
just
much.
stresses me. It stresses me out. The thought of
Dude,
it.
but you like food, right?
Yeah,
You
I,
enjoy good food?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I'm in Chicago, so it's like the
The bar is high for food quality.
yeah, yeah, you can get anything, like these small neighborhoods, they're, the hole in the wall places are just like
So
amazing
good.
food. And so, yeah, Grubhub is my friend for
Dude,
sure.
no shame in that. We've been using
No,
DoorDash for a
right,
while now.
right,
So it is what it
right.
is.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Yeah.
So you get into baking all these things, and how do you chance upon decorated cookies? Because that's really niche.
Yeah. I, so there were a few times at work where we had like holiday parties,
Right.
and like I decided to like do decorated sugar cookies. And mind you, this is like me Google search easy sugar cookie recipe
I
and
love it.
then find like some random thing on like allrecipes.com or something.
Yeah, yeah,
And then easy royal icing recipe.
yeah.
I didn't have meringue pie. Like I didn't even know what
You're
meringue pie
like, what is
was.
this?
Yeah, right. I'm like thinking, powdered sugar and water, mix it, and then
Yeah.
you're good to go. And so yeah, I made it a few times, and I don't know. I mean, my coworkers told me that they were good.
Do you
So
have pictures of them, like your first
I
cookie?
I probably do
Oh my
somewhere.
God. You have
Yeah,
to find them and send them.
yeah,
Seriously.
I will. I'll take a look. I mean,
We're gonna throw them up somewhere on the screen,
oh man.
wherever.
Okay,
Because everybody starts somewhere. I think
yeah,
that's just so important for people to realize. Like
yeah.
we look around at all these amazing artists and we feel so shitty about ourselves, myself included, like all the time,
Hmm.
because we're doing that comparison thing, not realizing we all start somewhere. And I have to remind myself of that every day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Exactly. It's humbling, and you feel proud when you see like where you first started and where you are now.
for
So
real.
yeah, so that was my first like taste of like sugar cookie decorating, but it wasn't something that I did. It was just like something to add to my baking repertoire, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I've done cookies and brownies and cupcakes and stuff. Oh, let me try decorated sugar cookies. And so I just, was able to add that to the list of things that I've tried. But it was not until like right before lockdown, COVID lockdown in 2020. Right before that is when I started to really get into it. And you were, okay, literally, you were the first cookie decorator that I was following.
This
That
is
I
so
followed.
crazy, guys. So David's already told me the story, but you all have to hear it because this is like the magic of the universe, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a religious person, but sometimes things happen that you're like, oh, this is kind of magical. So
Yeah.
David randomly chanced upon me in the like explore page or something.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So you would show up in my, the explore page is like the algorithm is showing me like all these baked goods, but cookie decorating was never something that I would look for. So,
Yeah.
but your posts would somehow fall into my explore page. I don't know how. Like
Okay.
it just kept falling in. It was like it kept
It
showing
was
up.
persistent, huh?
Yeah, and it kept, and I'd
Sure.
click on it to see what was going on. And then it got to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna follow her. Forget it. I'm gonna follow her.
Persistence. We
Yeah,
didn't have to do anything. The algorithm did
right,
it for us.
right. And
Yeah.
I started following you, and I became obsessed with watching your stories. Like it would be like the last thing I would do before I go to sleep is like sit in bed and in the dark and just watch you decorate. Like, we know how Lisa, we know how you talk in your stories, you step by step, everything that's going on. And I became, even though I did not know what you're talking about at all, I had no idea. Like, you're talking about the sugar art, you were talking about, Golden Halo, because at that time you were really like, it was like a new product. And so I didn't know any of that stuff that was going on, but I guess somehow I was absorbing that information, even though I hadn't really gotten into it to the degree of like studying it, learning it, techniques and stuff. And so, yeah, like you were the first person I started to follow.
Crazy. And so for context, right now it's the mid-October 2021. Dave did this towards the beginning of 2020. So he's really only been doing this for less than 2 years.
Yeah.
And you are at the level at this point where I was 5 years into cookie decorating. Easily. Like for anyone watching or listening, incredible work. I don't think Dave ever realizes, right, because you're so close to it, how good you are, seriously. And the amount of improvement that you've made from 0 to like 100 in such a short amount of time. Incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also, I will say that I think what has definitely accelerated and helped that is the infinite amount of information and lessons that I was getting from big accounts like you, from Frosted by Megan.
Yeah.
Like there were just like some key accounts that I would watch, and that's how I learned. And I think I picked it up, even though I was just getting started. I would just like constantly watch people's highlights and stories.
Yeah.
And I was
Dude,
like,
so you did a lot of like you went out there to seek out the information, right?
Yeah.
And really actively pursued it.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally self-taught, by the way. This counts as self-taught, not self-made always, right? None of us are all totally self-made because we're on the backs of everybody who came before us, but you were resourceful is one of the things. So I pound that into people's heads because the information is out there and there's so much information now. Like we have no excuse to not know how to like find something with a little Google or something like that.
Absolutely. Like, regardless if it's highlights or watching people's stories or people offering classes or, guides that people, that these influencers are offering through their,
They're
their,
helpful. They're
yeah.
tools.
Like there's so much out there. You just have to look for it. You have to follow the right people.
Yeah.
But it's
and then you got obsessed. Obsession always helps.
it was an obsession. Like I was so intrigued by it because baking is one thing, but cookie decorating, it's not mutually exclusive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at all. And so I just started like ordering everything. Like, I started to follow Holly and the Sugar Art because if Lisa was using Golden Halo, I needed Golden Halo. I bought, I bought all of your recipes, as everyone knows, I use your macaron recipes, I use your cookie recipe, royal icing recipes, because they're amazing. And so I needed to like basically mimic, like everything you're doing, but then at the same time as I'm learning to figure out what works for me, and then alter that.
Hugely important, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out, recipes and all that stuff, it's just a starting point almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a end all be all. This can give you a head start, but you still have to do the work because environment, equipment, what you're actually doing, all that matters so much.
And that was the big, like when I first started following you, that was the first lesson that I learned from you, is that you've always gave that disclaimer, always. Yeah. Like, this is what I'm doing, but figure out what's right for you.
And nobody can do that. There's no two people with like the same parameters across the board. And it's just very hard to say out loud because you kind of feel like an asshole when you say it. No. Or it sounds like a cop out.
Right.
Right. But I promise you guys, if you're watching this, it's not a cop out.
No, not at all. Because at the end of the day, it's what works for you and what's most comfortable for you and what's going to produce the most successful result for you. And maybe it is mimicking exactly what you do, but maybe it's not. So
you got to do the work to figure it out. No amount of talking is going to help you figure this out.
No.
Sweet. So you get obsessed.
Yeah.
And now you're doing this like every free moment that you have, or like, okay.
Yeah. So by this time, everything locks down, everything shuts down.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm working from home full time. And I'm getting all of these things in the mail every day from Amazon. And and like really
all the money flying away emojis.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was just, and I have boxes that would stay like closed for months because I wasn't ready to use it yet, because I wasn't at that point, because I was still trying to learn the fundamentals and the basics.
Yeah.
But I knew at some point I was going to use that projector that I bought within like a month of learning this. I was like, oh, I need a projector. So I bought a projector. I don't know how I'm good. I don't know how to do better. Right. Exactly. And so every day after work, I would bake cookies. I would practice, work with the royal icing, figure out, like how she was doing it. Like I was looking at your stuff and figuring out like consistencies. I was learning about, lettering, like everything. It was just like,
What was the hardest thing for you at this point?
Ooh, that's a good question.
What frustrated you the most?
It was 100% the royal icing.
Like the consistency?
Yes. And ultimately that's why I don't know how you do one consistency. Like I'm so amazed that you're able to find that perfect
between stretch and then like not crusting and then working at the right speed. Yeah.
Yes. I like, because I've come to terms with the fact that I'm a very slow decorator and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and but your quality is like up here, like all the way up here.
I think, I mean, I think if because I stayed with the one consistency for a while, and then I realized it was just not for me because I couldn't get to it. I couldn't get to that point. And I tried it for a while, and then I just decided that it was not for me.
You're a two consistency dude.
Yeah, I'm a 2 consistency, sometimes 3 if I need florals.
Yes.
Yeah, so
All right, so
um,
consistencies sucked for a while until you realized or came to terms with maybe this is just my way.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean, that was definitely the thing that I struggled with most, because then I'm like looking at my cookies and it's not smooth. I can't get it to get, it's not, it was, because I was so scared to make it, you know, too thin, because then my outline would be, it wouldn't be a
Yeah.
real outline consistency. So I made it too thick, and then I would try to smooth it. And yeah, just, it didn't work for
We
me.
will have to decorate cookies together one of these days.
Yeah,
I think we need to make that happen. That would be
for
fun.
sure. I like I said, I'm a slow decorator, and I'm totally okay with that. But I don't know, like I still don't know if I do similar things to other people,
Yeah, okay. I see what
you
you
know.
mean. Because you're not
Like,
exposed to like their inner workings. Like we see
mhm.
people on the internet and we see snapshots of their life, but
Yeah,
that's only like 1% of
yes,
everything they do.
absolutely.
So
100%.
interesting. This is
Yeah.
a fascinating conversation that can go for days, right?
Yeah,
There's so many little
absolutely.
things.
It's very, yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to see, because you might think that you have like a similar process just based on what you see on their page, but it could be like
Totally different. Yeah.
completely different. And maybe you might be exposed, you might not be exposed to things that could work for you.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I
real.
mean?
I think people underestimate climate too in their calculations for baking and
Yeah.
decorating. A
Hmm.
climate affects, how long your cookies stay soft, if you want them to stay soft, how
Yeah.
your icing behaves. Oh my God,
The icing.
climate affects icing so much.
Oh yeah.
And I had a Malik over at my house a couple months ago.
Yeah.
He's like cussing out my icing because it's drying so fast, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
his world of high humidity, it never freaking dries.
Yeah. So he could work with it until it
Yeah,
like,
forever. And he's like,
yeah.
oh my God, I can't do anything. It's all crusting. I have to do it again. So it was this learning process. No matter where you go, it's a learning process.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you eventually found your way to macarons. How the heck did that happen?
So okay, so the macaron and cookie thing kind of happened at the same time, but in
Okay.
different ways.
Okay.
So my niece got married in the beginning of 2020, at the end
Okay.
of January, and she had macarons as her little giveaway. And I was like, "Oh, these are so good," and she was like, "Uncle Dave, I bet you can make these." I'm like,
So
"Oh,
cute.
yeah." And so, like, literally less than a month later, I think this was like sometime in February, I started to make, I attempted macarons, and I found the one account that I found was Camila of Pies and Tacos. I'm not sure if you know her, but I came across her page, and she has like this, comprehensive website about like how to make them.
Oh my
And
God,
that's
I
how
love
I
that.
first started
Nice.
with, she uses the Swiss method. I
Okay.
obviously use the French method with your recipe now.
I'm
Um,
lazy.
yeah, I mean, I, yeah, all of the different methods have their own
Yes.
little
Good
thing.
things and bad things. And
Yeah,
it just, again, it goes back to you have to figure out what works for you.
exactly.
If one thing is not working for you and being too stubborn to try something else, that's not an answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And I know it's a slippery slope with macarons, right? Because they say stick to your recipe, because it could be anything that could affect the result. It's not necessarily the recipe. It could be, your oven temperature, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I just happened to realize that French method was the most efficient for me based on my small space, and like
Yeah.
less clutter, and
Less cleanup, less stuff,
yep,
right?
yep,
Most simple as far as what you need and how
yep,
much room you need and everything. Planning.
yes,
Yeah.
100%.
And
Yeah.
are you happy with where your macarons are at today?
It's always a surprise every time you make them, right? I mean, any macaron maker will tell you,
Yeah.
there's no perfect, you can't perfect them and have a 100% perfect batch every single time.
Good enough.
Good enough,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely good enough. And I think the fact that we have four true seasons here where it gets extremely humid in the summer. I struggle in the summer here.
You can see a big difference, huh?
Yeah. No, yeah, it absolutely does. And then when it cools down, where my humidity is 46% now, it helps.
Is 46 low humidity for you guys?
I think so.
Oh my God. I think
What is yours?
in the 20s here. 20s is pretty low for us. 40 is like pretty high.
Is it
30s,
really?
yeah, I think high 30s is about right for my house because we actually just got a humidity gauge like last year, this year. So I really knew for the first time, and I started watching it and I was like, oh wow.
Oh.
So we are very dry here, very dry.
I think that's what, like your recipe, you rest for like 20-30 minutes. I have to rest it for longer.
Yes.
For sure.
People don't realize that the resting time, like some people don't rest at all. Like that's very popular.
That's incredible. Yeah, I know there's people that's all they do.
Mine either have no feet or explode if I don't rest them.
I will get volcanoes if I put them directly into the oven.
Yes.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So when did you start decorating on top of macarons? Because you decorate on top with like royal icing, right?
Yeah.
I think that's so cute, by the way.
Yeah. So, okay. So mind you, I'm new to the cookie world and I'm new to the macaron world, right? And so like when I see a blank cookie, like
I have to pause you for 1 second because you just said you're new. So you've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and you still said you're new. And I just want to compliment you on how impressive that is, because you're just like, I'm a baby and I'm still learning 2 years in, right? I love that. Yeah, because we are learning all the time.
100%. And I still feel, I feel like I see some things and I'm like, I never knew that.
Yeah.
And so
all the time.
Yeah, I still feel super
Stay open.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry. I just had to tell you that real quick. That was so like deep in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I first started both of them, I used to like I'm new to both communities. When I see a macaron, I'm already thinking as a cookier, like what can I do on top of this macaron? You know what I mean? And so I thought it was people did that. Like I thought people were like decorating things, putting royal icing on top of.
They do. It's just really uncommon still.
Yeah, right. And I think it's popularized.
Yes.
Like pretty significantly over the past several months. But that's how I started, because of I was learning cookies. It was like natural for me to want
together. You're just seeing everything kind of together. Okay.
To fuse it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I remember my first royal icing macaron that I made. It was like I made this sunset thing. I airbrushed like a sunset, and I
think I actually remember that.
Yeah.
Seeing that on your feed.
Yeah, and that was the very first thing, and that was way back in 2020. And way back in 2020. Like, it was like decades ago. Right. And that's when I became like even more interested in it, because then like people would be like, oh my God, that looks so cool, because I had equipment from the cookie side that not many macaron people had. On my side, I had an airbrush machine and projector. Like who a macaron maker isn't necessarily going to need that equipment.
That's so fascinating that you're saying this, because I think the hybrid desserts thing is where like the modern baking is at, with the cronut, right? And like all these other hybrid dessert thingies and cheesecake, stuffed donuts, things like that.
Yeah.
So you're onto something. Yeah. For sure. And you're cross-pollinating between the two communities, because they are kind of separate, right? The macaron niche and the cookie decorating niche. But Dave you've really like become one, made them one for you.
Yeah, I feel like cool. I'm, toggling back and forth between these amazing communities. But I love it. I love like connecting on both sides of it. It kind of gives you different perspectives in like in the dessert world.
Yeah.
I love it.
Sometime through in the middle of all of your adventures, eventually you came up with this really cool tool for royal icing calculations, because we're always complaining as cookiers about like, I never know how much icing to make for my cookies.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about this tool, how you decided, why you were like so adamant about making it,
Yeah.
and what it does for you,
Yeah.
and how you're sharing it with the community.
Yeah. So the whole inception of this calculator started with Christmas pre-sales in 2020, right? It's my first like very large, it's my first Christmas pre-sale. It's my first large pre-sale in general. And I was so excited. And so I, took all my pre-sales went live. I took all my orders and I closed pre-sales. And then I looked at my, like what I took on and I'm like, what am I
Oh,
doing? Yeah, exactly. It's like,
yeah.
it didn't even cross my mind, like, how much am I going to be able to handle? And so immediately
Wait, hold on. Did you sell out? And
I ended up closing it, but then I think I closed, like, I can't say, it's hard for me to say no. Like cuts people off, but I did sell out.
It's like in our DNA as bakers, we want to share our love and we can never say no. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And
okay, so you were overwhelmed.
I was overwhelmed. I was completely overwhelmed. And so like right after that, I'm like frantically thinking, okay, what can I do to make things easier on me? Right. And so I'm like, okay, packaging. Okay, I can assemble the boxes early. I can, make all the dough ahead of time, blah, blah, blah. But then obviously when any cookier thinks about royal icing and mixing colors, that is like a pain point, right? I would say the majority of cookiers, when they think about mixing colors and royal icing, that is such like, it's so time consuming. And so at that time, I just started to use Frosted with Megan's little tip. And so she always says, weigh your icing, use a 0.5 ounce flood to flood a standard size cookie. Mm-hmm. And so using that tip, I was like, I bet you I can just like plug in some formulas on Excel and like have it calculated for me. And then I could just like go through every color and, weigh it, and then I'll be done. And so literally like on my order form, which is on an Excel form, I like open a new tab, no format whatsoever. I'm just like plugging in like, here, red, green, black, white, and then here's my cookie, how many cookies. And then I made this like janky calculator that calculated everything for me. And it worked for me. Like after, I got through Christmas pre-sales and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was thinking this entire time, I'm like, I bet you people outside, like people out other than me would actually would have use to this. And so I said, my New Year's resolution after, the holiday season is over, let me work on this thing, make it pretty, and see if anybody's interested. If, there's a few people who want it, I'll send it to them. And so I created the first version of it, which was geared towards pre-sales. Obviously, I'm like in a pre-sale like mentality at that time, right? Because that's where you experience the highest volume, right?
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you use this for, as long as you know how much cookies you need to make, what their size is, and what colors you need, and you can use it for any purpose.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so the pre-sale, with that pre-sale mentality, I kind of started to build it, made it pretty. I have, like started to think of, okay, if you are a cookier, obviously everybody has their own approaches to like handling their business, but I'm thinking in a very broad sense, in a general sense, how would people use this? And so I built it based on what I think would be the easiest for just a general use.
Perfect. you guys are interested in seeing a copy and a walkthrough of that royal icing calculator that Dave is going to do for us, be sure to watch the video that we're linking either down below or in the middle or somewhere here, because we want that to be a separate thing. This is going to be knowing Dave, and then Dave teaching you what's in his head, and all these calculations will be in a separate video. So definitely go check that out. So Dave, this is a big deal for the cookie community, putting something out out into the world like this. If anyone wants to thank Dave, how do they support you? Like, how would you like to be supported? I guess that's the other thing, if at all,
You know what, but using it would be, thanking me enough, like, honestly. And so, and I'm not even lying, like, the reason why I built this and the reason why, because a lot of the people that I've sent it to, they're like, how much do I owe you? Where can I send you money? And I'm like, this is free. They're like, can I send you, a coffee? Can I send you a Starbucks card or
what
something?
if they want to?
I mean, they could, but like, and my thought about building this thing is that I have gotten so much free information from the community, from your account, from Megan's account, from all of these big accounts, that like, this is my contribution to the cookie community.
All the fuzzy vibes.
Yeah, because I don't know, like, I can make highlights about, royal icing, but it's going to be a lot of things that people have already seen on other people's pages, right? But this thing, I feel like, is very unique to me. And so I want to put this out there. If it suits your business need or any need, I want that for the cookie community.
I love it.
I've gotten so much free information that I feel like I owe people.
Oh man. Well, thank you. Like, thank you. I think this is a big deal. Again, if you guys want to see the video, we're going to link it for you guys here so that it doesn't clog up getting to know Dave video. So what's next? That's always an interesting question, right? Like, you freaking love cookies, you're working a day job. What do you envision yourself doing in the next couple of years with cookies? Like, do you want to, like, for example, like, do you want to compete on a TV show? That's like a thing, right? Has that crossed your mind at all? You make this a full-time thing. Do you have dreams?
When I started doing this whole cookie journey, I was like, I want this to be like just an organic journey for me. You know what I mean? Like, because at the end of the day, for my purposes, I decorate cookies because it's a creative outlet for me, right? So I was a choreographer. I mixed music in my 20s, and so it was always, the creative side of my brain was always like present. And then when I stopped dancing in my 30s, I'm like, it was like gone. And so the cookie thing came up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this creative thing going again. And so I am taking it one day at a time. Right now, my focus is on just creating really cool things for my customers, doing pre-sales and custom orders. And in a selfish way, it's for me to do creative things for myself and to fulfill that.
You gotta fill that cup. I think it's important. So keep working, keep doing cookies, and just naturally see where this goes without pushing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I plan to do. But anything can change at any given point.
Yeah, I think that's so you're open to the idea of opportunity if that happens.
Always.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, like, if you could give a new cookie or baker, macaron maker, one piece of advice, what would that be?
Ooh, that's a good question. One piece of advice.
One thing, and this is a thing that will stay with them for their journey. You can think about it, take a moment.
I want this to be a good answer. That's why, I'm like,
there's like, you don't have to have a perfect answer, but it could be something that's really helped you along the way.
Yeah.
Pushed you through the really frustrating times?
Oh, well, I would say that to be okay being imperfect, to messing up,
Mhm.
because all of those mistakes that you make, all those errors, all of the consistencies that you make and look ugly on a cookie, or all of the macarons that you make where you overwhip the meringue, all of those experiences and all of those pieces all come together as part of your journey and part of your getting better and learning. And so I would say, just don't be scared to make mistakes. Just get into it, experiment, figure
I love
things
it.
out.
I love it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes
Oh,
and kind of embrace them in a way.
yeah, it's
And
okay
I
to
always tell people kind of enjoy the journey. Like, we don't get to be beginners at all these things, right? There's a strange beauty to being bad at something before you
Mhm.
get good at it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's like very human.
yeah.
Um, if you had to turn back time in your cookie decorating journey, is there anything you would have done differently at all, or are you quite at peace with the way things have happened?
um I mean, other than the fact that I started this journey in a very, and a lot of like people who are doing it, who just started on it right now, we all share this, unique thing where we started during a pandemic. And so like you felt very isolated. It is by
Mm,
yourself all the time. And so I felt like, I think maybe if like it was not during a pandemic where you can maybe like reach out, because I don't know any local cookiers. Like
mm.
I've never met anybody. I know a few, but it was, I would say, like, if it was not during a pandemic where we were actually able to maybe form a community, that would be nice.
Like a local
Yeah,
physical.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All
I think
right.
that's really important.
Chicago, if you're listening, Dave has put the message out into the universe. So if
Yeah.
anyone wants to hit Dave up, hit him up.
Well, I'm friends
Um,
with a lot of them, but I just haven't met them in
yeah, you
person.
gotta, I feel like you gotta make the time too. Also, it's like also even pre-COVID, it's weird like saying, hey, do you want to get coffee, right? Like it's hard.
Mhm.
Um, and
Yeah,
it's even harder now after, during,
right.
because we're still not done with COVID, but
Yeah.
during and after COVID.
Mhm.
Cool. So if people want to get in touch with you or find you, how do we do that?
So you can find me on Instagram, which is my Instagram handle is baked.by.dave.
We'll throw it up here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. Or you can email me, which is baked.by.dave1, because somebody has my email address.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so there's a one at the end at
Okay.
gmail.com.
Gmail. Okay, perfect. We'll throw that up too. So are you open orders in the Chicago area right now?
I take custom orders. I open it up every quarter, and then once
Okay.
those orders are filled, then I close up my books. I'm booked through the end of 2020, 2021.
2021. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. All
And
right. Do you have a website?
I do not have a website. So I know there's a ton of things that I need to, yeah. I think
Okay.
I've been just so focused on like the creative aspect of it. I didn't really think about some of these other things that I
Again,
should.
organically, right? You
Yeah.
know, you're kind of just letting this organically grow.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Well, thank you so much. This was super fun.
Yeah, it
Like,
was
you're
fun.
awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, you guys know where to hit him up. And then if you have any questions for us, just drop them or send us a DM. We'll be happy to answer. All right, guys.
So,
Peace. Okay, so we'll cut there, Clay. I'm talking to my videographer too. This is weird, right? Like we're creating content, but also like actually getting to know each other at the same time.
yeah. How was that? Was I
That
super
was
awkward?
fantastic. You're a natural.
Oh my
Seriously.
gosh, I'm very socially awkward. So I'm like, to me, it feels odd.
we're both two socially awkward people
Mhm.
who actually know how to present ourselves
Okay.
and
Okay.
communicate. Like I'm super socially awkward.
Okay.
And
I don't see that.
right. And I
Okay.
don't see that with you either,
Okay.
because I don't think we're actually that socially awkward in like
Okay.
the scope of all the things. We
Yeah.
just feel weird when
Yeah, maybe that's it. I just feel so, yeah.
we feel socially awkward.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna get some water. You want to get some
Yeah.
water or something? Because we've been talking like
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, nice. Your big ass gallon jug.
Oh my God. I drink. So I like whenever I'm on like our team meetings, we have to be on our leadership calls. We have to be, and whenever I take a drink, it just like completely covers my screen. Everybody laughs at me. But you know,
You
you're
have to
supposed to
stay
get,
hydrated.
I know you have to, yeah, absolutely.
Dude, so what's your workout schedule like? What do you do for workouts right now? Because you obviously stay fit. What's the sitch?
Do you know what Orange Theory is?
I
You guys
hella know. I know too well what
Oh,
orange.
okay. All right. Well then, yeah, I do Orange Theory. So it has
That's it?
evolved. I lift too, to
Okay.
balance
I was
out.
thinking like you can't really make muscles though in Orange
No.
Theory, because I feel like that's more conditioning.
Mhm. It's
Yeah.
definitely like it fulfills my cardio need because you know the rower and the
Yeah.
treadmill is
It's like PTSD for me.
oh really?
So I went through a fat phase.
No.
Yeah.
No. What?
Trust me. Yeah, I went through a fat phase. Like I wasn't super fat. I was like definitely chubby, had like a spare tire, all that stuff. You just don't feel good, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been overweight.
Yeah, for sure. You know, like we just feel unhealthy. Yeah.
You don't feel good, you don't like yourself,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
self-confidence, everything tanks. And I went through that phase. I had two of them basically. I had one like in college because you eat all this shit because it's
Mhm.
unlimited food. And then like broke up with an ex, you know, and then you go into like depression.
Yep.
And then I had another one because I was working a day job and working this job, and I was on my ass all day.
Okay.
And my friend was like, let's go do a Tough Mudder. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing a Tough Mudder? It sounds horrible. But my husband and I got pulled into it because, you know, there's a pride thing involved. And you can't be like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And we did it. And it was like 10 to 12 miles of just, and we didn't work out. Okay. We didn't work.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It was so horrible, Dave. Like, first of all, you're in California. It's hot as hell. It's like death, and you're just rolling hills for 10 miles.
Oh my God.
I thought I was gonna yak on hill number 1 because it was like 45 degrees, and I had to climb up the last bit on my hands and knees because
Oh my
it
gosh.
was so steep. Because you're gonna slip, right? If you're just walking, you're gonna slip. And by the time I got to the top of it, it took me 10 minutes to cover because I wasn't sure if I was gonna barf or pass out.
Oh my God.
At the same time. It was that bad.
Oh gosh.
And then after the Tough Mudder, even though we all survived, I had like no upper body strength. We all survived. I like could not sit on the toilet for like 3 days straight or walk up the stairs.
Wow.
That's how out of shape I was.
But Tough Mudder is extreme, but
it is extreme. But after that, we're like, okay, we're like 22, 23. This is not acceptable.
mm-hmm.
It's just not acceptable. And my husband grew up really athletic as a kid, but then you know, like life happens and work.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we didn't prioritize it. So we ended up learning to lift, and he got really into lifting. And then I kind of lagged behind because the preconceived notions of women getting large from lifting is so prevalent in media.
Oh, I know.
Which is all false.
It's terrible.
All false, but it's like one of those things that, you know, you're like, I don't want to be big and unattractive.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I started lifting. I started counting my macros. Mm-hmm. We did 8, 9 more Tough Mudders and Spartan races after. We went through a phase.
Damn.
Yeah, we went through a phase.
Holy
and then
shit.
you have like mud up your ass crack for like 3 days, you know, that kind of shit.
Absolutely. Like I've only done
Did you do
one.
them?
I've done one Tough Mudder right like the year before COVID.
Hmm.
Um, I loved it. I mean, it was hard, like don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, but I went with like an OTF group.
Okay.
So you know, it was
Yeah.
just like something to do as a team.
Right. No, you do it for the team and you do it with your friends and then you all suffer together and now you've bonded.
Yep.
Right.
100%.
And then after that Tough Mudder, like after that I was like, okay, I'm just like kind of over this, and then started lifting. And then like in the last 3 years ago, I got a job where I had to be out in Boston like every other week
Oh,
from California. So I took a red eye. I'd get there at 7 in the morning,
oh no.
transfer from JFK to Boston,
Hmm.
get into the office by 11, work until 4, and then
Oh,
but that
that's
was a Monday.
whoa. Oof.
I loved it because I love the people. I
Oh,
loved it, Dave. Like it was
okay.
stupid. I was like on drugs or something, is what it felt like.
Wow.
And I was doing cookies, right? And like you can't tell all of that by watching all my content, but because I would pre-record and post and everything.
Yeah. I
But I joined OTF
okay.
at that time because I wanted to bond with my new coworkers and
Oh,
also stay active.
okay, okay.
But it wasn't for me because that level of cardio and conditioning made me so hungry. In
Yes.
the middle of the night, I would wake up and I'm fucking starving.
Oh, yeah. It's so true. Yeah.
But
So
I
you
have no self-control.
no,
So I'm like
no sense.
eating.
Yeah.
And then I like started to put on fat and I was like, oh my
What's going
God.
on? This is counterproductive.
It's counterproductive. It doesn't matter how much, like how many calories is burned because it's so easy to eat it all, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I stopped OTF and now I just like lift for health and just maintain.
Yeah. Hey,
That's my fitness journey, but it like really makes a difference in how you feel and how you present and how you work and everything.
it does for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's like super like it's stressful on your body over time, you know. And
OTF, yeah.
I've been doing it for a while, so I'm kind of like right now because remember when I posted on my stories, I've been like looking for a chair because I know like now that I've been working from home for a year, like it's affecting my body
Yeah, it is.
and it's affecting my like when I'm at OTF, I could feel it. Like I could feel like my body getting injured a lot easier. So I know it's because I'm the way I'm sitting in.
You have
Like
a standing desk?
no, um,
Makes a huge difference.
I know. And the thing, our company, like the only like at the office, like people were able to get standing chairs, but then it would have to be like for a medical reason. You couldn't get one just because CVS is so like we're a Fortune 3 company.
Yeah, like what
Fortune
the
3,
hell?
and you guys can't give us standing desks.
You're a healthcare company,
Right, right.
basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It's insane. So
hey man, I'm just putting it out there. Costco got one, pretty cool. It's like 200 some bucks and it's fantastic.
I'll have to look. I'll
Yeah,
look.
it's
Yeah, I
worth
might
it
just
for
have to.
cookies too, because you can stand doing cookies and you're not hunched over. It's actually better when you're crossed.
Oh, I was wondering about that, like decorating. Like, would I be able to do it standing up?
You just have to like horse stance a little bit,
Yeah, right.
but it's easier on your back because I like really messed up my back doing that order for my
Yeah.
friend.
Oh,
I
how were
couldn't unbend.
man? How were you for this past order? Were you okay? Like
Oh,
the
that was from before CookieCon. This
okay,
is all a
everything is
trick.
pre-recorded. Okay, never
Oh,
mind.
it's all a trick, sir. It's all a trick.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. What am I
Most
thinking?
of what I do is a trick.
Okay.
Yeah.